Hello, guys, and welcome to Season 2 of the Penny Podcast. I'm Andrés. I'm in 12th grade, and I am the Coppell Student Media Web Producer.
I'm Camden, Southwick. I'm in 12th grade, and I'm a staff photographer.
If this is your first time tuning in, the Penny Podcast is a weekly podcast that incorporates interview, conversational, and communal elements.
So starting off, we got our CSM highlight, and this week it goes to Akif Abidi for his article, Halfway to the Goal. Choir sees 15 singers pass regional auditions, published under our news section. I'll recite the opening to his article. A nervous commotion fills the air as students talk energetically in groups, awaiting their turn to be called into the room and perform for one of their biggest auditions of the year. To read the rest of Abidi's piece, head over to coppellstudentmedia.com.
This week on One Shot, Kanye West recently released his 9th album, Jesus is King, under his label Good Music. I personally found the record to be a stellar exploration of gospel music with hip-hop undertones. A highlight on the record is Water, featuring Ant Clemens, where Kanye praises God, stating, "The storm may come, but we'll get through it because of your love." The song contains a soundscape with a very fluid and beautiful presentation. Nick Pranske, our executive copy and design editor, wrote a Jesus is King review for The Sidekick. You can find a link to the article in the description. Now, on to the main show. What is your full name, grade, favorite color, and position on staff?
Hi, I'm Shravya Mahesh. I'm a 12th grader. My favorite color is purple, and I'm the entertainment editor for The Sidekick.
Describe your position on staff as the entertainment editor.
Well, as the entertainment editor, my main job is to oversee the section. I have to create content and decide what goes into the print issues. We have 6 of those per year. And I also assign and manage content that actually goes onto the site under the arts and entertainment section. I'm also the first level of copy edits for stories that go into entertainment.
Alright, how's it like running an entire section? Just describe your day-to-day priorities.
Well, I can't say it's an easy job. There's a lot to do. For one, you have to actually make sure that everyone's on task. You have to make sure that people are getting their stories in. And you also have to manage to make sure that we're covering all the events and important issues that there are to cover. For example, if we have like a choir show coming up or a band recital or a band competition, anything of that sort, it's like especially important that we have to cover that. So I have to make sure that we have like fair coverage of everything that goes on in the city of Coppell and at the high school. And I also have to make sure that like everyone is writing what they want to. I also have a couple of sections that I have to subsections that I have to maintain, including an artist spotlight for print. And I also create a local guide series, which we are actually piloting this year. So combining all those things, there's a lot that I have to do, but I would say that my day-to-day priorities are assigning deadlines and updating my storyboard where I include what stories are being worked on, are people meeting their deadlines, that kind of thing.
So pretty much, you're never not busy.
No, never.
Explain your thought process when assigning a story to someone, to these fall choir concert or Newsies, which recently happened. Do you figure out who fits the bill beforehand?
Well, you brought up Newsies, and that for one was a very popular spot. A lot of people wanted to cover it. But so for me, I personally believe that the best writing comes from people who are enthusiastic about what they write about. For example, you were talking about Nick's his album review. He was enthusiastic about that, and you can see it in his writing. He really wanted to write what he did. So I like to put out like an open call, say, hey, who's interested in writing this story? And whoever responds like enthusiastically or first is the person who's going to be the most qualified or interested in writing it. But something else that we have to pay like a special attention to is to make sure that the person does not have a schedule or a conflict of interest per se with like whatever it is. So for example, if we're doing a band story, I can't have someone in band write the story because then we would have bias. So I have to be careful about that. But typically it's whoever's enthusiastic, and especially people who haven't written for my section, so that everyone gets a taste of something new and we don't have like the same writers that are writing again and again.
Nice. How do you discern what would be a good story for your section and what wouldn't?
Well, I try to find the most diverse and interesting stories. There's so many of us at our school. We have an extremely huge school with an extremely huge student body. So I personally think that the stories that stand out are about people who do something unique or interesting. For example, we have 2 stories coming up pretty soon, so stay tuned on Coppell Student Media for those. But we have 2 stories coming out about 2 girls who both published books, which is not something that you hear about on the daily, right? That's something that's kind of unique or kind of interesting. So those are the kinds of stories that I think are really interesting. Earlier this year, in the first issue, we had a story about Rit Bhattacharya, who is a SoundCloud rapper and even has his own account on Spotify. He's a verified artist on there, and something like that, where he actually makes his own music and comes together with other people, and he's recognized by Spotify too as like a rapper and a hip hop artist. I think that's something that's like interesting that people would find fascinating. So I think that appeal of like, wow, that is something that I want to like read about, is something that really makes me want to like include that in my section.
Yeah, it's very original to hear someone do something like that, especially when they go to the same school that we do. You feel like you're on the same level as them almost, like, I can do that. You know,
right. We have we actually have a lot of really interesting people who go to our school, from actors and musicians and artists and all sorts of people. So I think it's really, really important that we have coverage of them and show everyone how amazing these people are. Build some support, spirit.
Setting examples, pretty much. What are some of the best stories you've had in your section?
Well, I kind of mentioned a couple of them. It's only been about 9 weeks so far. We've only had a quarter, but we have a lot of interesting stuff coming up. But so far, I really love the story about Red. I think that's very fascinating. And we recently had a story about an alumni, CHS alumni, who starred in a movie called Survival Box on Apple TV. And I just think that that's something that's so fascinating, because it's someone who really made it and like made it out there. And that was a very, very well written story with a lot of really interesting media like components incorporated into the story. Angela Yuan, the writer, she did a very, very good job at that. She worked really hard at that. And I'm just really excited to see what other cool stories we'll have this year.
So am I.
What is one behind the scenes fact about your section that only you know?
Okay, something kind of cool that I found very exciting is that the entertainment editor position has a legacy. Our past editor-in-chief, Kelly Wei, as well as our current editor-in-chief, Anthony Cesario, they both used to be entertainment editors before they became chief, which is something that's kind of cool because it has like a legacy to it. This is like a coveted position, if you will. Of course, I wouldn't be able to carry on the legacy because I am a senior, but I do think that's like a very interesting, very cool thing that you can know about this position.
Yeah, in an alternate universe, maybe you got that ability to do that.
Universe.
Do you treat deadlines like mere dates or something more?
There's something that I kind of battle with myself about. I personally I'm very hard on myself. I expect a lot out of myself, and especially because this is a newspaper. It's more than just a deadline per se, because say, for example, in an English class, you have a deadline, you have to read a book or do an essay or finish a project by then. You do it because of yourself. You do it for yourself. Your life and your future are at stake. That's one kind of motivation, I guess. But but for a newspaper, there's so many other people depending on you, from the other fellow editors to the other staff members to Mr. Wofford, our advisor, to the thousands of other people at our school and in Coppell in general, even outside where people are like selling subscriptions to other people, or just supporters and family and friends. There's so many people who are depending on us. So I feel like a sense of responsibility where if I don't get my stuff in, or if I don't get content in, it feels like the end of the world almost for me. I get so upset at myself for it. And I see that even otherwise, even not as an editor, even as a writer, right? I see that like if my work is perfect or the best that it can be, I feel so bad. And I feel like that in one hand makes me strive to do as good of work as I can, but it also makes me disappointed in myself. And I end up feeling like I'm not good enough, and a lot of the times that can lead me to feel very sad and upset, and it can bring me down, which it becomes a bit of a problem because I feel like you shouldn't have this much emotional attachment to that. But I think it also shows how much I care about this and how much I really, really, really love Sidekick and the environment, the people, and just the community to it. So I feel like it's just so rewarding in the end that even through all these obstacles and this emotional turmoil and all this effort and hard work that you put in, when you see it all come out at the end, when maybe you win a prize, or just someone comes up to you and says, hey, I really liked what you wrote. Or maybe even you just look at it, or even I just look at it myself and think, wow, I really like how I wrote that. Even with just that, it just makes it feel 10 times as rewarding, I guess. So yeah, I do have a lot of emotional connection to it.
It makes sense. You've put your all into this position, so it makes sense to reap the rewards.
I know you work so hard at this like every day.
Yeah.
Might as well get some accomplishments, right?
Yeah.
What is the hardest challenge you've ever faced as an editor? And have you encountered different challenges being in a leadership position versus when you were just a staffer?
There was this once. Okay, so coming in as a new editor, you have a responsibility to, lead the rest of the people. And you have to get into it a lot quicker than, say, a new staffer has to learn the ropes and get into that, right? So there was this once when I actually... So in order to stay organized over the summer, I created a spreadsheet of all the entertainment events that would be going on this year, so far as I knew ahead of time over the summer. And what happened is I assigned someone a story and then completely forgot about it. And later on, I realized, oh, wait, did I or did I not? And there was a lot of confusion over that, and Mr. Wofford had to come up to me and ask, hey, is anyone covering this? And I immediately freaked out. And that to the person who was supposed to be covering it could not make it because they fell sick, which isn't their fault. That's mine for not following up with them or making sure that they were reminding them about it. So I think that showed me after that I had to scramble to find a writer, and we did, but it was very, very chaotic. And I think that taught me that I think that taught me an important lesson about how I have to be very on top of things, and I can't take things so casually, if you know what I mean, kind of.
What are some of your favorite moments on staff?
My favorite moments? Well, we have staff socials, and I think those are really, really fun because you get to know a lot of people. There's so many staffers, especially my fellow editors, that I never had classes with them, especially last year when it was my first year. And I thought it was really, really fun. It was a great bonding experience to get to know people. And some of those people that I met during socials are some of my closest friends now. But also just in class, sometimes we are very hard at work. But there are just some times when Mr. Wofford will crack a joke, or some of the people in our class will laugh or make a comment, and Mr. Wofford will really vehemently decline it or something, or we'll just make a funny joke about something. And I feel whenever we're doing something like that and the entire class is in on a discussion about something, it's the small little moments that I really remember. Just the other day when our teacher was telling us about how much he hates Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. It was just small little things like that make me really happy. I just think, wow, look at this community that we have here. We're more than just a bunch of kids who are writing something. We're a family who's all passionate. We're all bound by one goal. And that's just the small little things that make me happy.
I agree. That's what makes a psychic really special. It's the little moments that we have in the newsroom where you can crack a joke and you know that you have a deadline, but something about just being in an environment that's safe.
I think that's what changes it from just being an organization or some club to a team or a family.
It's a family.
Yeah, it really is a safe space. I always feel I can be myself, and I feel these people aren't people who are going to judge me. I feel hey, I'm at home, kind of. Yeah.
I can be me.
Exactly.
And so I guess our last question, what would you tell someone who is interested in writing for an entertainment story?
Have fun with it. I always tell all the people who write for my section that they're always worrying about, oh my god, I don't know how I'm going to fit this word count, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, what am I going to do? I just tell them have fun with it, because entertainment, especially over some of the other sections, is based in something fun. Entertainment is something that people go to for leisure, for pleasure. And so I want that to really be reflected in the content that we put out, whether it is just a music review, a song review or an album review or a movie review, or even a more serious feature story, or coverage of a choir event. It should be seen in the writing and the way that you say it, that you really had fun with it, and you can just read it and tell, wow, that's entertainment. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, special thanks to my co-host Camden and our guest Shravya.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for joining us in the 28th episode of the Penny Podcast. Links to the material we mentioned today can be found below, and see y'all next week.